There's something extraordinary about the minds that were forged in the 1960s and 70s. Psychologists and behavioral researchers have been studying this for years, and what they've discovered is both fascinating and deeply unsettling. People who grew up in those decades developed mental qualities that today are considered rare, not just uncommon, rare, like finding a diamond in a mountain of glass. According to specialists, the social context of that era, marked by less technology, more face-to-face interaction, and responsibilities assumed from an early age, had a direct impact on how that generation thinks, reacts, and handles challenges. But here's what mainstream psychology doesn't tell you. This isn't just about habits or upbringing. This is about quantum coherence of consciousness itself. You see, in quantum physics, there's a principle called quantum entanglement. When particles exist in a state of coherence, they operate at peak efficiency. They're synchronized, harmonized, powerful. The human mind works the same way, and the minds shaped in the 60s and 70s, they developed in an environment that naturally promoted quantum coherence. According to studies, the daily life without constant stimuli like social media and digital notifications favored the development of deep attention and prolonged concentration. It was common to maintain focus on a single activity for extended periods. Something increasingly difficult in our hyper-connected scenario. But let's go deeper. Let's look at this through the quantum lens. When your mind focuses on one thing for extended periods, your brain waves enter what scientists call theta and alpha states. These are the frequencies where creativity flourishes, where problems solve themselves, where insights emerge from the void. The 60s generation? They lived in these states naturally, daily. Modern minds? They flicker between beta and gamma states constantly. Agitated, fragmented, never settling long enough to achieve quantum coherence. Another crucial point highlighted by researchers is the relationship with time and reward. Unlike today's logic of immediacy, those who grew up in those decades learned that results require effort and patience. The reward didn't come instantly. And this helped build tolerance to frustration and discomfort without impulsive reactions or panic. In quantum terms, they learned to exist in superposition, to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously without collapsing into anxiety. They could sit with uncertainty, with discomfort, with the unknown. Today's minds? They collapse at the first sign of discomfort, reaching for the phone, seeking distraction, fragmenting. Specialists also point to greater capacity to deal with conflicts directly and face-to-face, without the mediation of screens. Difficult conversations, disagreements, problems were resolved in eye-to-eye dialogue. This contributed to a clearer separation between practical decisions and momentary emotions. But here's the quantum truth. When you communicate face-to-face, you're not just exchanging words, you're exchanging energy fields, electromagnetic signatures, quantum information. You're reading micro-expressions, feeling subtle energy shifts, accessing data that no text message or emoji can ever transmit. The 60s generation trained this ability daily. Their mirror neurons fired constantly. Their empathy circuits strengthened through direct human contact. Modern communication through screens, it's quantum impoverished, informationally depleted, energetically flat. Moreover, resilience appears as one of the strongest marks of that generation. The constant experience of attempts, errors, and adjustments along the way strengthened adaptation capacity. Fall, rise, try again. This was part of the process. No shortcuts. In quantum mechanics, this is called iterative measurement. Each attempt collapses the wave function slightly differently. Each failure provides data. Each repetition strengthens the quantum pathway to success. The 60s minds understood this instinctively. They lived it, breathed it. Today's generation, they expect the wave function to collapse perfectly on the first try, and when it doesn't, they quit, they panic, they fragment. So what exactly are these rare mental qualities? What is this quantum resilience code? Among the main characteristics observed by psychologists are greater capacity for concentration, contentment with what one has, tolerance to discomfort, valuing personal effort, patience for long-term results, ability to resolve conflicts personally, and resilience built through practice. But these aren't just psychological traits. These are quantum operating states of consciousness itself. In this video, you'll discover the 7 quantum abilities that the 60s and 70s generation developed naturally, and how modern minds are losing them one notification at a time. You'll understand why these minds operate at higher frequencies, why they possess rare mental powers, and most importantly, how you can reconstruct these quantum pathways in your own consciousness, because what was built through environment can be rebuilt through intention. The quantum resilience code awaits. Let's begin with the first 2 quantum abilities, concentration and contentment. In the 60s and 70s, minds were trained daily in what neuroscientists now call sustained attention. Reading a book for hours, working on a project without interruption, having a conversation without checking anything, watching the sunset without photographing it, just being, fully, completely, present. Modern neuroscience has discovered something profound. When you sustain attention on a single object for extended periods, your brain enters a state of flow. In this state, your prefrontal cortex partially deactivates. Your sense of self dissolves, time distorts, and your brain waves synchronize into coherent patterns that scientists can measure on EEG machines. This is quantum coherence manifesting in neural activity. The 60s generation lived in flow states regularly, not because they were special, but because their environment demanded it. No notifications interrupting, no infinite scroll fragmenting, no algorithmic hijacking of attention. Just depth, just presence, just coherence. Compare this to modern attention. The average person checks their phone 150 times per day. That's every 6 minutes during waking hours. Each check fragments your quantum state. Each notification collapses your concentration. Each context switch costs cognitive energy. Modern minds exist in perpetual quantum decoherence. But the first quantum ability goes deeper than just focus time. It's about the quality of that focus. When 60s minds concentrated, they achieved what Tibetan monks call one-pointed awareness. The entire universe collapsed into the single object of attention. In quantum terms, the wave function of consciousness collapsed completely into a singular state. All probability clouds dissolved into certainty, into presence, into power. This is why they could read complex books and actually remember them, solve difficult problems without external aids, create original thoughts from sustained contemplation. Their concentration wasn't just longer, it was quantum level deeper. Now, the second quantum ability, contentment with what one has. In ancient Vedic texts, this quality is called santosha. It's considered one of the fundamental pillars of consciousness development. Why? Because contentment is the natural state of quantum coherence. Think about it. When a quantum system is in its ground state, its lowest energy configuration, it's stable, content, not seeking, not grasping, simply being. The 60s generation grew up in an environment of relative scarcity. They had fewer toys, fewer options, fewer comparisons. And paradoxically, this created abundance consciousness. Because their minds weren't constantly measuring themselves against others, weren't perpetually bombarded with images of what they didn't have. They learned to extract maximum joy from minimal stimuli. A stick became a sword. An empty field became a universe. Imagination filled the gaps that today's children fill with screens. Modern psychology calls this hedonic adaptation, but it's deeper than that. It's quantum sufficiency. The recognition that consciousness itself is the ultimate abundance. Today's minds exist in perpetual quantum wanting. Social media creates infinite comparison matrices. You see someone's vacation, their body, their success, their life, and your quantum state collapses into not enough, into scarcity, into grasping. Studies show that just 15 minutes of social media scrolling increases feelings of inadequacy by 43%. 43% in 15 minutes. That's not psychology. That's quantum manipulation of consciousness itself. The 60s generation was immune to this because the external comparison matrix didn't exist. Their contentment arose from internal alignment, not external validation. They measured success by personal growth, not by likes. Measured worth by character depth, not by follower count. They understood something profound that modern minds have forgotten. Comparison is the thief of quantum coherence. The moment you measure yourself against another, you collapse your unique probability wave into their reality tunnel. In Vedic philosophy, this is called Maya. The illusion that your completeness exists outside yourself. The 60s minds saw through this naturally. Not through spiritual practice, but through environmental design. And here's the most powerful part. Contentment and concentration reinforce each other quantum mechanically. When you're content, your mind doesn't scatter seeking external stimulation. It settles, it focuses, it goes deep. And when you concentrate deeply, you access states of consciousness where contentment arises naturally, where the present moment becomes enough, more than enough. Everything. This is the quantum feedback loop that 60s minds experienced daily. Modern minds, they exist in the opposite loop. Discontent drives distraction. Distraction prevents depth. Lack of depth increases discontent. It's a quantum death spiral of consciousness. But here's the liberating truth. You can reverse this right now, today. Start with 1 hour of phone-free concentration. One activity done fully, completely, without fragmentation. And practice santosha. Contentment. Look at what you have right now and recognize it as enough. Not as resignation, but as quantum alignment with reality as it is. Because the 60s didn't have less. They had exactly what they needed to build quantum resilience. And so do you. The third and fourth quantum abilities are perhaps the most challenging for modern minds to comprehend. Tolerance to discomfort and valuing personal effort. Why challenging? Because modern civilization has been engineered around a single promise: the elimination of discomfort. Cold? Adjust the thermostat. Bored? Open TikTok. Lonely? Scroll Instagram. Uncomfortable silence? Fill it with music. Every micro-discomfort has an instant solution. But here's what neuroscience reveals. Discomfort is the crucible where consciousness strengthens. It's the resistance that builds mental muscle. The 60s generation grew up with constant, unavoidable discomfort. You were cold. You wore more layers and dealt with it. You were bored. You sat with boredom until creativity emerged. You were frustrated. You processed the emotion without external numbing. This wasn't suffering. This was training. Training the nervous system to remain coherent under stress, to maintain quantum stability when the environment fluctuates. In quantum physics, this is called environmental decoherence, external noise that tries to collapse your coherent state into chaos. Weak quantum systems collapse immediately. Strong ones maintain coherence despite perturbations. The 60s minds, they were quantum fortresses. Modern psychological research confirms this. Studies show that exposure to manageable stress during development creates what's called stress inoculation. You experience small doses of discomfort. Your system adapts, strengthens, builds resilience circuits in the prefrontal cortex and amygdala. Then when larger stresses arrive, you have quantum bandwidth to handle them. Modern minds skip this training entirely. Helicopter parents remove every obstacle. Technology removes every friction. Society removes every challenge. The result? Minds with zero stress inoculation, zero quantum resilience. A minor setback creates catastrophic emotional collapse. A small discomfort feels unbearable. An uncomfortable truth triggers complete system shutdown. This is quantum fragility at civilizational scale. But the 60s generation understood something profound. Discomfort is information. When you're cold, your body is teaching you about thermodynamics. When you're bored, your mind is teaching you about creativity. When you're frustrated, your emotions are teaching you about growth. Remove the discomfort, remove the teaching. Modern minds are informationally impoverished because they've eliminated the very experiences that build wisdom. In Stoic philosophy, this is called amor fati, love of fate. Embrace what is, including discomfort. In Buddhist practice, it's dukkha, the recognition that discomfort is inherent to existence and resisting it creates suffering. The 60s minds lived these philosophies without knowing the terms. They had no choice but to build tolerance, and that tolerance became their greatest strength. Now, the fourth quantum ability, valuing personal effort. In the 60s and 70s, if you wanted something, you worked for it, directly, tangibly, physically. You wanted to learn guitar. You practiced until your fingers bled. Wanted to build something? You got tools and materials and figured it out. You wanted knowledge? You went to the library, found the book, and read it cover to cover. Every achievement required direct personal effort, and this created a quantum feedback loop between action and result. Modern neuroscience calls this agency, the felt sense that your actions cause outcomes, that you have power over your reality. Agency is one of the most powerful psychological resources humans possess. The 60s generation had maximum agency. Every meal prepared taught causation. Every toy fixed taught problem solving. Every challenge overcome taught I can. Their quantum field of consciousness was saturated with agency. Modern minds, agency is dying. Why struggle to learn when ChatGPT gives instant answers? Why practice when you can watch someone else do it? Why work when you can order? Every outsourced effort is a lost opportunity for quantum strengthening. Studies show that modern children have 40% less agency than children from the 70s. They feel 40% less control over their outcomes. And here's the quantum consequence. Low agency creates external locus of control. You attribute your successes to luck and your failures to circumstances. You become a quantum observer instead of a quantum creator. The 60s minds were quantum creators. They understood viscerally that effort creates reality, that sustained work collapses possibility into actuality. They didn't just believe in hard work as a moral virtue. They experienced it as a quantum mechanism. You put energy in, reality shifts, direct causation. This built unshakable self-reliance. When problems arose, they didn't panic. In physics, time is not what we think it is. Einstein proved that time is relative, flexible, observer-dependent. But there's another aspect. Your perception of time shapes your quantum possibilities. The 60s generation grew up in what psychologists call delayed gratification culture. You planted a seed, you waited months, you got a tomato, you started a project, you worked for years, you achieved mastery, you saved money, you waited, you bought what you wanted. The reward was always separated from the action by time, significant time. This created quantum coherence across temporal dimensions. Their consciousness could hold intention steady across months and years. In neuroscience, this is called executive function. Specifically, prospective memory and future self-continuity. The ability to act today for a self that exists tomorrow. Next month, next year. The 60s minds had extraordinary executive function because their environment trained it constantly. Modern minds, temporal quantum collapse. Studies show the average person now makes decisions with a consideration window of 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days. Can't see results in a week. Quit the gym. Can't master it in a month. Give up. Can't achieve it quickly. It's not worth doing. This is quantum temporal fragmentation. Modern civilization runs on immediacy, 2-day shipping, instant streaming, same-day delivery, real-time everything. And this rewires the brain's reward circuits catastrophically. Dopamine systems evolved to reward sustained effort over time. Hunt for days, eat for weeks, plant in spring, harvest in fall. Long temporal gaps between action and reward. But modern technology hacks this system. Every click gives instant dopamine. Every swipe, immediate reward. The brain learns. Reward should be instant. Effort should be minimal. This destroys quantum patience at the neurological level. Research by Stanford psychologist Walter Mischel showed that children who could delay gratification, who could wait for a larger reward, had better life outcomes across every metric. Better grades, better relationships, better careers, better mental health. Why? Because delayed gratification is quantum temporal coherence. It's the ability to collapse the wave function at the optimal moment, not the earliest moment. The 60s generation was trained in this from birth. Modern generation is trained in the opposite. Instant gratification, immediate collapse, no quantum patience. But here's the deeper truth. Patience isn't waiting. Patience is sustained, coherent intention across time. It's holding the vision steady. It's acting consistently. It's trusting the quantum process. The 60s minds had this naturally. They'd seen it work countless times. Now, the sixth ability, resolving conflicts face-to-face. This might be the most lost quantum ability of all. In the 60s and 70s, if you had a problem with someone, you went to them, directly, physically, face-to-face. You looked in their eyes. You read their body language. You felt their energy. You spoke. You listened. You resolved it. Or sometimes you didn't. But you engaged directly with the quantum field of another consciousness. Modern neuroscience. Worse, you gain something toxic, asynchronous communication. You send a message. They respond hours later. You reply. They react the next day. No flow, no rhythm, no quantum coherence. And this makes conflict deadly. You write something. They interpret it through their emotional lens. They respond angrily. You react to their anger. The quantum feedback loop becomes a death spiral. Studies show that 75% of text-based conflicts wouldn't happen in person. 75%. Because face-to-face, you'd see the hurt in their eyes. You'd hear the pain in their voice. You'd feel the misunderstanding and correct it immediately. The 60s generation rarely had prolonged misunderstandings because they resolved things directly. Modern minds can be in conflict for months through digital miscommunication. But there's another layer. Face-to-face conflict resolution builds courage. It's uncomfortable. Your heart races. Your palms sweat. Your voice might shake, but you do it anyway. And every time you do, your quantum courage strengthens. The 60s minds had immense courage because they practiced it constantly. They couldn't hide behind screens. Modern minds avoid conflict at quantum levels. Send a text instead of call. Ghost instead of reject. Passive-aggressive instead of direct. This creates quantum cowardice, inability to handle direct human confrontation. And society suffers. Relationships suffer. Truth suffers. because difficult truths require face-to-face quantum bandwidth to transmit. So patience and presence, temporal coherence and interpersonal coherence. These quantum abilities allowed the 60s generation to build slowly and connect deeply. Two things modern civilization has sacrificed for speed and convenience, but you can reclaim them. And now we arrive at the seventh and most powerful quantum ability: resilience built through practice. Resilience. The word is thrown around carelessly today. But true resilience isn't what most people think. It's not about being tough. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's not about pushing through mindlessly. True resilience is quantum anti-fragility. In his groundbreaking work, mathematician Nassim Taleb introduced the concept of anti-fragility. Systems that don't just resist stress, but grow stronger from it. Muscles that tear and rebuild stronger. Bones that fracture and calcify denser. Minds that challenge and expand. This is biological quantum adaptation. The 60s generation built anti-fragile minds because their environment was perfectly designed for it. Not intentionally, but accidentally. Naturally. They fell, they got hurt, they failed, they tried again, constantly, daily, inevitably. No helicopter parents to catch them, no safe spaces to protect them, no participation trophies to cushion them. Us draw feedback from reality, and here's the quantum truth. Failure is the most powerful teacher in the universe. Why? Because failure collapses your wave function in a way that reveals truth. You try something, you think it will work. Reality says no. Quantum measurement complete. Now you have data. Real data, not theory, not imagination. Actual quantum information about how reality operates. The 60s minds accumulated massive failure data. They tried countless things that didn't work. And this built two quantum capabilities: pattern recognition and creative adaptation. Pattern recognition. After failing many times, you start seeing why things fail. The underlying principles, the hidden rules. Modern cognitive science calls this mental models. Internal representations of how the world works. The 60s generation had rich, complex mental models because they tested reality extensively. Modern minds, they have theoretical knowledge without practical testing, Wikipedia wisdom without real-world verification, weak mental models, fragile understanding, creative adaptation. When something doesn't work, you improvise. You adjust. You find another way. The 60s minds were masters of this. No YouTube tutorial, figure it out. No replacement part, make one. No clear path, create it. This built extraordinary creative problem solving. The ability to generate novel solutions under constraint. Modern minds Google the answer. If it's not there, they're stuck. Because they've never had to develop creative adaptation circuits. But resilience goes even deeper than failure response. It's about quantum identity stability. Who are you when everything is stripped away? When the external validators disappear? When reality doesn't cooperate? The 60s generation built identity from internal reference points, from personal values, from tested character, because they'd been tested repeatedly. They knew what they were made of. Modern identity is externally referenced, based on likes, followers, validations, comparisons. When those disappear, the identity collapses. The quantum field becomes unstable. This is why modern mental health is in crisis. Anxiety, depression, identity confusion. It's not just psychological, it's quantum structural weakness. But here's the profound truth that changes everything. These quantum abilities can be rebuilt. Your brain is neuroplastic. Your consciousness is quantum flexible. Your patterns can rewire, not instantly, not easily, but absolutely, definitively possible. You can develop deep concentration by practicing single-task focus daily. Start with 15 minutes, build to hours. You can cultivate contentment by consciously practicing gratitude, by limiting comparison, by recognizing enough. You can build discomfort tolerance by deliberately exposing yourself to manageable challenges, cold showers, difficult books, uncomfortable conversations. You can value effort by choosing projects that require sustained work. By celebrating the process, not just the outcome. You can develop patience by committing to long-term goals, by planting seeds literally and metaphorically. You can improve face-to-face conflict resolution by having difficult conversations directly, by choosing presence over text. And you can build resilience by embracing failure as education. by trying difficult things, by accepting that growth requires falling. This is the quantum resilience code. Not a secret, not hidden, just forgotten. The 60s and 70s generation possessed these abilities not because they were superior humans, but because their environment demanded quantum strength. Modern environment demands quantum fragility, demands instant gratification, demands comfortable mediocrity. But you can reject this programming. You can become an outlier, a quantum anomaly, a consciousness operating at higher frequencies in a world of noise. It starts with awareness. You now see the code. You understand the pattern. Next comes choice. Will you continue fragmented, or will you reconstruct? The 60s generation had no choice. Their strength was forged by circumstance. You have choice, and that makes your potential even greater. Because conscious quantum reconstruction is more powerful than accidental development. When you choose difficulty, you activate agency. When you embrace discomfort intentionally, you build meta-resilience. Resilience about resilience. Quantum coherence about quantum coherence. This is the path. This is the code. 7 quantum abilities: concentration, contentment, discomfort tolerance, effort valuation, patience, face-to-face resolution, practiced resilience. Not myths, not nostalgia. Observable, measurable, rebuildable quantum states of consciousness. The 60s and 70s minds operate at higher frequencies because they were trained in quantum coherence. Modern minds operate in fragmentation because they're trained in quantum decoherence. But training can change, patterns can shift. Consciousness can evolve. Starting now. Starting today. Starting with you. The quantum resilience code is not lost. It's dormant, waiting for you to activate it.